So a couple of weeks ago, YouTube's algorithm randomly recommended something to me called Godzilla vs. SYMPHOGEAR, a trailer for a crossover between my favorite film franchise of all time and an anime franchise that I knew by name only and otherwise was completely unfamiliar with. Don't know why it recommended it to me, probably because of the Godzilla influence, but I checked it out. I looked up what I could about it, and considering this channel has become somewhat of a news outlet for Godzilla news, I made a couple of videos reporting on it and letting people know it was a thing. Come to think of it, I never did give the final verdict on what that was going to be. As far as I can tell, Godzilla vs. SYMPHOGEAR is actually an addendum to a pre-existing SYMPHOGEAR mobile game, which I believe simply allows you to get kaiju-inspired armor for the different characters. I don't know if there's anything more to it than that, because in this American version of YouTube, I can't really find that much about it that I can actually get a translation of. So, for now, that's all I can figure. But I did say, when I first discovered this, that it got me intrigued to figure out more about SYMPHOGEAR, because as I looked up the premise and started looking up clips and whatnot, I decided this show looks ridiculous, but it looks like the kind of ridiculous I can get into. So if I ever get the opportunity, I'm gonna check this show out and see what it's like. Well, lo and behold, starting this previous weekend, Crunchyroll's official YouTube channel started uploading episodes from the first season. As of this recording, there are 7 episodes uploaded. I'm sure by the time I get this video put together and uploaded to my own channel, there will be 8. And probably more by the time you see it. But either way, by this point in time, I have seen the first 7 episodes, and I figured I may as well share my thoughts because, well, SYMPHOGEAR is exactly as ridiculous as I thought it would be. Here's the basic premise. In a classic setup for anime and tokusatsu style shows, there are monsters that are attacking the world. In this case, creatures called the Noise, which turn people to dust just with a touch and cannot be harmed by anything. Except, of course, for the one thing which is the centerpiece of this whole series. There are certain artifacts scattered throughout the world, some of which exist only in fragments, that can harm the Noise, but only if they are activated through a certain acoustical tune. In other words, by the singing of a young girl. So, there's this secret organization established beneath a music academy, which randomly selects candidates from there, I guess, to become the wielders of these artifacts and don the armor, the eponymous SYMPHOGEARs, to fight the Noise. And our main character is a girl named Hibiki, who, after being saved by a former SYMPHOGEAR wielder who died in the process, winds up with the shards of Gungnir, yes, the Spear of Odin, in her chest, which basically allows her to wield that weapon and become a SYMPHOGEAR on her own, even though she's very inexperienced. And yet, despite that inexperience, she is apparently the special, and she's fighting the monsters all while singing, and there are other players. There's a lot going on in this show. It's very difficult to summarize beyond what I've just told you. Besides which, that would probably be getting into spoilers anyway, so I'll just leave it at that if you want to check it out for yourselves. So my initial impression of the series was that the first episode was much darker than I thought it would be, given the premise. The second episode was much lighter than I thought it would be, given the first episode, and after that it settled into a tone that was mostly going for dramatic, occasionally skewed into melodramatic, and didn't care if it looked ridiculous or not. And it really can look ridiculous at times. There's this one character who looks like he stepped out of a series set at a demon academy or something, because he's got these wild eyebrows with wild hair, and his color scheme is mostly red. He looks like some sort of demon lord in human form, though he dresses very casually and wears a necktie that's tucked into his pocket for some reason. He doesn't look like he belongs there, and that should tell you a lot, because we're talking about a series where the characters wear this wild-looking armor and sing while they're fighting, so for a character to look out of place in that kind of realm, that's really saying something. But again, the show really doesn't care if it looks ridiculous. So he's just part of the cast. There's also quite a bit in the way of Yuri overtones for these first few episodes. For those who don't know, Yuri is one of the terms used in Japan to refer to series about lesbian relationships. Now, in this particular case, it's not like it's hitting you over the head with it. There's nothing blatantly stated. A lot of the relationships you could technically interpret as just being really, really, really close friends. But, if you know the subtext, you know there's more going on. And, well, it's just another part of the series. It's there, it's not really made a big deal out of, and, I mean, it's something that happens in anime a lot anyway, so... Actually, there's a lot in this show that you can say happens a lot in anime. The cynical part of me thinks that SYMPHOGEAR is a show that was designed to be popular. Designed to be commercial, if you will. Because it's got a whole lot of stuff in there that feels like it's specifically meant to appeal to otaku. The crazy-looking armor, the J-pop and J-rock in the soundtrack, which, to their credit, they actually do make an integral part of the plot. The character designs, the Yuri undertones and overtones, it all feels like it was manufactured specifically in the hopes that it would be popular. And it probably was. This series is not based on a manga or anything. It is an anime original. And in a way that does sort of decrease it artistically, at least at this point, but at the same time, I can't deny that I'm still watching the show and I want to see what happens next. Just because it was designed to be commercial doesn't automatically mean it's bad, mind you. It just means it's trying to be popular. It's trying to be a product. I mean, heck, comic book movies do that a lot of the time, and those are really popular, and they can be good in spite of that. Not always, of course, but they can be. And SYMPHOGEAR, I think, has just enough going for it that it is surpassing that. It's overcoming that particular stigma, if you will, and it has me intrigued to check out more. I think it could actually really go places, and it's stuck around for a long time, like multiple seasons beyond this first one, so clearly there must be something there that keeps people coming back beyond just the popularity stuff. I don't know what it is just yet. I've only seen the first 7 episodes, but there is something there. There is something, and I want to know what it is. I will say this series is not for everyone. If you can't handle over-the-top melodramatic, crazy science fiction and fantasy, you're probably not going to get into this because, like I said, it's very unapologetic about what it is and what it wants to do. So, if you can't get into that sort of thing, you're probably not going to like this series. You're probably just going to think it's stupid and ridiculous, and you cannot suspend your disbelief enough to accept it, which, you know, I would understand that. Personally, I'm the sort of person who thinks that the more ridiculous an anime is, and the more it's unapologetic about how ridiculous it is, the more I tend to gravitate towards it. I mean, the series that got me into anime was Fooly Cooly, for crying out loud. But SYMPHOGEAR, well, it's certainly not Fooly Cooly levels of ridiculous, but it is still ridiculous. But, just as I thought, it is my kind of ridiculous. It's the kind of show I will keep watching for as long as it's able to still tell an intriguing story. The story isn't necessarily groundbreaking per se. I've seen a lot of what it does before, but it's telling it in a way that wants me to come back and see how it will be told this time. Because there are a few slight differences here and there that make me think, okay, they're trying to go in a slightly different direction than just the cliche, so we'll see. I want this show to be good. I want it to be something I can get into and keep watching. I don't know if it will be. I mean, there have been plenty of series out there, anime and otherwise, that I started thinking this is pretty good and eventually got to a point of, why am I still watching this dreck? I hope SYMPHOGEAR doesn't become one of those, because I like everything I've seen so far. The clips I've seen from later seasons out of context certainly have me intrigued, because the animation quality and the music quality really get bumped up in those later seasons, if they're anything to go by. Right now, Season 1 is sort of more in the safe zone, but not so safe that it's forgettable. So, I'm gonna keep checking it out and see where it goes. I just thought you guys would like to know that if you, like me, didn't know what SYMPHOGEAR was before hearing that announcement of Godzilla vs. SYMPHOGEAR, and you wanted to know what this kind of show is, well, if you live in certain regions of the world at least, now you can check it out. I don't know if you'll find it to your liking, but I'm certainly going to stick around and see more. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.